I'm going to record, and it turns out that the town prefers you to have a file on your laptop and then upload it to Dropbox instead of going on the cloud.
Good to know.
So I am calling the meeting to order at 7:12. And the first item on the agenda is to accept and amend if necessary, and then accept the agenda. So does anyone have anything new to add to the agenda?
No.
You notice there's no new business down.
You never know, something could have come up, but I'm reminding
No,
you.
I'm just saying now's a good time. If you have any new businesses, now's a good time to add it to the agenda.
Nope.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Wendy, you got that? Or do I need to repeat the names afterwards?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is to review and amend if necessary, then improve the minutes of the meeting of May 20th. Anyone have any?
Motion to approve the minutes. They were done very well, Yost. Thank you.
Agreed. Seconded.
All right, any discussion?
No.
Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Third item on the agenda, I'm going to switch back and forth now.
What happened to Donna?
You know what, I could share my screen and then I won't, I can look at you at the same time. Why don't I do that?
Because then we don't get to see your face.
Well, you will, I'll just be on the side.
All right.
I just, you know what, I want to, if Donna comes back on, or if Yost is waiting, I want to know, and it'll be easier for me to know if we're doing this. Okay, so next is Liddy for the treasurer's report.
No report. No, nothing has happened. We've had no expenses, and so that's my report.
But hold on, we have, this is the end of the fiscal year, right?
Yes, and we said that what's left in our budget will just be returned to the town.
Okay. And what is left?
Oh, can you hold on a minute while I go find out?
Well, yeah, I mean, should I put that in the minutes?
Wendy, I'll get it to you. Is that all right?
Okay.
All right, good. The next item on the agenda is public comment, but we don't have any members of the public present. Loud truck noise. Probably those greenhouse trucks going by, Melissa.
Maybe.
Under
Or
old
maybe your
business.
oven guy leaving.
No, he already left.
Oh.
He left. He probably needs to come back with a part or something. I don't know. I just want an oven. Okay. So the Kent Solar Initiative.
Just before we start that, we want to make sure, like I called it the Kent Solar Initiative because that's what we've been calling it, but it really has a more formal name. So we want to really start calling it by its correct name and get that into the minutes. So Wendy, what's the official title now of our?
The Green Banks Municipal Assistance Program, or MAP.
Green Banks Municipal Assistance?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now it's officially in the minutes that that's what we're talking about, and that
Okay.
is the name of the initiative.
You all, could I back you up just to the end of the treasurer's report and say that we're, what's left in our budget is $2,255. So that will be returned to the town.
2,200?
55.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, most of our expenses are in the spring.
Yeah. Okay.
It will go to good use.
I'm sure.
And we get yeah, at the close of the fiscal year, we have new money. So
Yes, and they didn't cut it by very much.
Oh, they
do you
did.
want to
cut
tell us
it?
what they did cut it?
They cut one of the categories slightly. I think I reported that 2 meetings ago.
I
Oh,
don't remember that.
I'll look it up for you, Melissa.
Thank you. I would say not much attention went to that in Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen's meetings as far as what was cut from any department. So that's why I was
They cut the pizza budget.
Good.
But not the margarita budget.
Oh, good.
So you want me to speak about the solar?
are we done
Initiative?
with treasurer's report? Are we, is Lydia, are you going to find that now, or do you want to move on? And then-
I want to move on. I think I just told Wendy what we're returning to the town. As
Right,
far as what our budget is going forward, I'll look that up. I can report on that later if you want.
that's great. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so we'll return to that later. For the Green Bank Municipal Assistance Program, Wendy, why don't you give us a report on what's going on, including the presentation at the recent select board meeting?
Yeah, last Monday night, we were on the agenda for the selectmen, and at the very end of a long evening, I had prepared a bundle of stuff for them, including the summation of all the electrical expenditures of all the municipal buildings. But I was disappointed to see that nobody had even opened their packets, which doesn't inspire confidence. So Jean just said, well, Wendy, tell them about it. So I was caught a little off guard, but I did the best I could and urged them to take this seriously and to read up on it, and stressed that this was an opportunity for not only for Kent to do the right thing, but to be a model town. They seemed to like that idea, but I mean, nobody said gee whiz or wow, or that's great. So that's about all I can tell you. I mean, oh, what I need to say is all this data is now in the hands of the head of the department at the Green Bank that handles this. And she says that it's going to be a while before we hear back from them, but they're going to do a sort of aerial visual study of these buildings as a preliminary to figure out which buildings even make sense. And they will get back to us in time, and if they will come and make a presentation to the town, to the board, to somebody.
So Wendy, should we push them a little bit, or we just have to wait till they come back to us?
I think it's too early to push. I think they just are overwhelmed. It's a brand new program, and they said it when I began this, that don't expect anything to happen in the way of installation until 2021. But
Okay.
what I am hoping is that come September or October, they will start making serious, plans.
Good.
The installations, when they happen, go in pretty quickly because they're all, certainly the ones on the roof, they're all pretty straightforward the way they go, kind of cookie cutter.
Uh-huh.
But first, of course, the town has to agree to all these, or the people who manage each building have to agree to it. But initially, everybody I contacted thought it was a fine idea.
Good. Okay.
And I did add in, after I sent all the members of our commission, I added in the library because I think they can qualify as a municipal building based on the amount of aid they get from the state and the town. And the Green Bank people, allowed that was possible. They don't seem to be quite clear yet on some of these outlier buildings, but anyway, I hope I'm not going to fall flat on my face. It just seems like a very smart idea to me.
It sure does.
I don't at all think that you're gonna fall flat on your face, or, you know, I mean, I also was disappointed that the select board hadn't focused on it, and seemed, you know, complacent with just hearing a positive report. But are you concerned, Wendy, about pushback? Because I really did not get the feeling
No.
that anyone was opposed to this idea. I think that
No, I think there was a feeling that, well, it's a no-brainer if it works.
right.
I just expected somebody to give me a little pat on the back, I guess.
Would have been nice.
Didn't happen.
I
Yeah,
agree.
it was
I
all
was
kind of
disappointed.
ho-hum.
I was disappointed with their reaction, but then later thinking about it, I was thinking, well, you know what? In general, they see the things that you do, Wendy, and the things that come out of the Conservation Commission, and they know that what we tackle seems to be really productive and positive projects. And so, you know, maybe I wanted to take it that that was like a sign of confidence in what you and the Conservation Commission in general do.
Well,
So
except
that's how I interpreted it after the fact, after I got over the fact that I was upset.
that was positive, but 2 out of the 3 selectmen are new. So, you know, personally, I got plenty of approval from Jean, but it just was done in such a half-assed way, frankly, that I wish there'd been a little more fuss, and I was surprised that I didn't get a call from Lynn about a story, but you know, maybe
So
it's
Lynn's having a hard
premature.
time actually publishing stories. She didn't cover the silent vigil. She's writing the stories, and they're just not giving her space. So unfortunately,
Well, in this
the
case,
publicity we wanted didn't come but she did write a story.
all right, well, you know, it will be much more important if we actually get some real agreements on this, and that will be a more opportune moment. But I would stress that I presented this from front to back as a Conservation Commission enterprise. You know,
Wendy, maybe just chalk it off to the hour of the night. Maybe they were just, you know,
yeah.
I really do.
and we will give you a virtual pat on the back.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Here we
Wendy.
go. There you are, Wendy. Okay.
There's my birthday present.
And Wendy,
Okay.
do you think, you know, just kind of getting back to that question about, you know, pushing the Green Bank along, do you think that it would make any difference to get some press or an article like that, or just drop that for
No.
now? We can always do it later.
I think we can do that later. I think it might be premature.
Okay.
I've got a nice relationship with the woman in charge. She's been she was very complimentary of the submission, said, oh, you've obviously done a lot of the legwork here, and this is impressive, and blah, blah. So let's see.
So for those of you who who don't have the chat box open, I just wanted to let you know that Donna was having difficulties going in. She couldn't hear anything. And so that's why she's come on and off of the meeting, and she said she was going to try to join through Google. So Melissa suggested that maybe she just call in on her phone. I don't know if she got that message before she dropped off, but
I don't either, but I'm saving the telephone number so that if she pops up, we can resend it to her.
okay.
Because that was what I was trying to find, the telephone number. But
Oh, she just popped up again. So
Okay.
here she
Hey,
comes.
Donna.
She said that a minute ago, she said she was on, but she just didn't have any audio. So
Yeah.
maybe she can hear us even though we can't hear her.
Okay, so Donna, Melissa is chatting you the phone numbers in case you want to call in. And we still can't hear her. And you know what? I'm embarrassed to admit this, but you know, maybe this happens to other people too. But I called into a meeting the other day and didn't have any audio and was flipping out and couldn't figure out what the tech problem was. And ultimately realized that the problem was that I didn't have my sound on my computer. So that's always
But
a
I called into a meeting Monday night and it told me that I had to update my version of Zoom and that now you have to have Zoom 5. So I had to do that today to get it better because I had to sort of go in a different on my browser on Monday. So everybody has to be up to 5 now.
Donna, can you hear us? Can you chat to tell us yes or no if you can't speak?
Oh, Donna.
Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to be taking notes. I lapsed. Okay.
This part doesn't have to be in the
Did you guys notice that I joined the meeting?
We did, yeah.
Hey, Yost.
Did.
Oh, I didn't.
Sorry
I didn't
that
see
I-
us.
Sorry that I was late. I had forgotten about it. So,
Oh, Donna can hear us,
Donna
everyone.
can hear us. Okay. Yost, I can't see Yost, but that's because the agenda is up. That's because I don't have everybody. It's
Okay,
whatever.
so something
Yeah,
that you can do, Carol, is go to the top of your view box where you're seeing the videos, right? And then you should have the option of pulling up like a grid.
Oh, got it.
Everybody-
Okay.
Unless
hear me
you're
now?
on an iPad or a phone. If you're on a tablet or an iPad or phone.
I'm good. I'm good. I got it. So
now,
Yost could
now how
take
do you do
over.
that? Because I am looking at the agenda here. It says you have viewing Connie Mann's screen.
So on the top right, there's these little like Jeopardy or Brady Bunch boxes on there. You can click one that is a grid, and that should bring all of us up.
Grid? I don't see
Think
it.
Brady Bunch.
And
Well, the grid on mine is on the left side.
Yeah,
upper corner.
it can be different on other
I
people's,
drag mine around, so.
but it's,
it doesn't.
Oh, Donna cannot, we cannot hear Donna. She can hear us.
But can you hear me now?
I
Yeah.
can-
Oh, yes, Donna.
yay,
Yay.
Yes,
Thank you. Yay.
great.
What a pain in the rear end.
That's okay. We're so far down on the, but you missed that, Wendy, that we had a positive, although very muted response from the Board of Selectmen on the Green Bank solar. They want to go forward, and they're content not to know much about it at the moment.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yost, do you want to take over the minutes and I'll send
No,
you
why don't you keep
to the
doing it?
keep going? Okay, all right.
Okay, so let's move on to B under old business, which is reduce, reuse, recycling. And the first is involvement with the transfer station. And is there anything really to report? I guess actually from last month, we had the discussion about how cans and bottles were not being accepted, and that has changed. I don't know if that was another, magical thing that happened because of some of our interventions or not. But I was told by Adam, who's done the dump runs for the last several weeks, that, about 2 weeks ago, they started accepting bottles and cans again. So that's great.
What do you mean by not? They were accepting cans and bottles all along. You mean to put it aside for recycle?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, I was there this weekend. No, John did it. He probably didn't even notice.
Yeah. So you don't have to commingle them anymore. You can put them aside and they're going to the scholarship fund again.
Oh,
Terrific.
that's great. Okay. Now it's clear to me. Got it.
Thank you.
And I don't know if there's anything much else to talk about at the moment.
well, I did check with IGA and they do not accept receipts at the register to donate to the scholarship fund. Gary does not want that to happen because he didn't feel that they would make it to the right place, that they get misplaced in the process of zeroing out your drawer and stuff. And then I did pursue having a bin or a box either right by the doors of IGA or by the shed, Epstein shed, and Ed Epstein and the committee decided they did not want that to happen. So I got a dead end on that.
What
Well,
was
it's
the reason
academic
for it?
now anyway, right?
Well, no, I
Now,
think that
now
it would,
it's at the dump, so it's,
you're right, but I think that it would increase their donations if they had a place to deposit your receipt. People
Yeah,
would do the work for them, and they would collect donations pretty easily without having to do any work, 75 cents here or whatever. But they were worried that someone would break into it and steal them.
Well, if it were inside near the exit door where the food donation place is, why not just have a little slotted mailbox right there?
I pursued that and even picked out the really nice looking one that we could get a nice sign put on and whatnot. And it was, maybe they need to hear the idea a couple of times over the next, several months. And then they'll get used to the idea and it'll become their own idea. And I'm fine with that.
there you go.
Huh.
Oh, well.
That's all.
There's probably another place that would agree to collect them, but in order to really be cost effective, it really should be somewhere in the IGA where, you have the receipt, you can just put it in.
Yeah, when it's at the front of your mind, sure.
Right.
Well, and that's why initially I was like, well, no one's going to steal 75-cent receipts if they collect it every time they're over there doing their other bottle returns. So if it was right by the machines in the shed, it would be such a
It'd be
no-brainer.
perfect.
But, like I said, people will bring it up to them in the course of the next 6 to 10 months and maybe it'll happen. And that's totally fine.
You're really laid back, Melissa.
No, my kid's 15 now and I'm just kind of going with the flow, Wendy.
Impressive.
All right. And then how about the recycling bins on Main Street?
Bravo. They're back.
Also magical. you know?
Magical.
All we have to do is start making inquiries and, people rethink something that was probably knee jerk and maybe even, not overly cautious in March, but certainly now, seems hard to distinguish the reason to do that, and not, have the same concerns about other garbage and other people handling garbage. So, I think that that's worked out well to have them back on the streets.
Very good. Very
Did
good.
everyone see the picture of the bear and 2 cubs at town hall today? Or maybe it was
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. The fact is there's at least 3 different bear families right in town right now. And, I don't know what they're related to,
Well,
hope there's social
if the trash
distancing.
in the streets is a good idea because if
I
they
don't
start
know.
getting
I don't
into
know, Connie.
it might not
No,
be.
I don't have anything to relate it to. I don't remember ever having bears in the center of town being reported as frequently as this year. But I don't know why. It's just an observation.
Somebody up on Mountain Road had his shed destroyed because he was storing garbage in there.
oh,
One way to clean out a shed.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
we
but
might
they-
get the street garbage cleaned out too now.
Which garbage, Donna?
The ones on the street, if they're back, I didn't realize that they were back. Yeah, that'll be good feeding.
Well, that's what we're saying is like, we thought it was great but let's see what happens with bears in the
Yeah,
street.
let's see what happens.
So, and who knows if the bears in the, if it's probably less human traffic, certainly you wouldn't see bears around town hall except that it's closed. And so there's not really people around there. So maybe with more people in the streets, we won't have an issue. So let's just see. And meanwhile, anything else on recycling that we can speak to right now?
You know that company JBM Carting? They're local, but they're a private contractor. They've been doing a post every day or a couple times a day even on what is yes recyclable and what is no. I've kind of been interested in it. It's kind of been cool to watch. And they're taking it from their actual like pickups every day.
Oh,
So it's real. They're not just making a point of it. They're actually showing people's recycling that they've dumped into their truck.
What are
and
they
how
called?
it- JBM Carting, I think.
Where do they pick up from?
They're local. They're a New Milford telephone number. I don't know. I've just been kind of
People in
laughing
Kent-
and
people in
learning
Kent
some
use them?
stuff.
So
Are
is
people
that
in Kent using
educational?
them?
Is that educational for people?
Yeah, they've had a lot of positive feedback from it. Yes.
So can we link it to the town website or our Facebook page or whatever?
I hesitate to do that because they are for profit, and I just
Yeah, you don't wanna
hesitate to
promote
do
the
that with a
company.
town page. But
Yeah.
the other companies aren't doing that, so
Are people in Kent using them?
I believe they are an option in Kent. Yes.
I
So
think
that's,
probably.
but you would have to, you'd be paying for that, other than, like Melissa, who picks up your garbage? That's.
Waste
who's the-
management.
Right, okay, so you're not paying for waste management, that's what you get for home pickup. So
No, I
people-
pay for it.
Oh, you do
I
pay
pay
for
for it
that?
quarterly.
Uh-huh. So you have a choice of who you can have pick up your trash? I didn't know
Correct.
that.
Correct.
Mhm. Okay.
If the posts are just educational, I don't really have a huge problem sharing them occasionally. I think it would be kind of weird to share them every day.
I think if you guys don't have a problem, I'll find, if there's one that I'm like, oh crap, I do that and I didn't know, then those are the ones that I'll.
The only thing we have to watch is that it doesn't disagree
them.
with what our current protocols are at the transfer station, because people might get confused.
No, they're HRRA, so they quoted stuff from HRRA in there. So I just sent an invite to you guys that I'm friends with.
Okay, good.
Like,
So I think that's another way to go about it too, is like when there's a particularly good one that kind of strikes us, maybe share that saying, I didn't know this. Did you? And like a suggestion that, I've been learning a lot or something like that. And then people can go follow them themselves.
yeah, I just thought it was pretty interesting, and you guys are my recycling gang. You guys like it as much as I do.
I think the wrap issue is the hardest one to solve. And certainly personally, my garbage has increased it's probably doubled, maybe even more than doubled.
Wow.
The amount of wrap packaging that I am throwing away now because I
Wow.
don't have a place.
And my use of plastic.
Wait, but is the box by the IGA? I haven't been into the IGA and since this all started, but is the box by the door of the IGA still there?
The box by the IGA has not been there for a while. And I was hopeful that the Big Y still had it, but I don't
They
know.
do, Connie, they do. I've put stuff in it. I hope to heaven someone's picking it up, but I put stuff in it.
I think that they're
Oh,
doing.
recently?
Box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last week.
Oh, okay.
So I'll tell Adam that, because we collect it, and then every once in a while it's like overflowing in my house, and I just get frustrated and toss it. But you don't even like feel comfortable because you can't use your reusable bags. You don't feel comfortable putting your produce. Like it seems like we're using more produce bags, and there's just more packaging in general. It's been kind of a nightmare. So
So I've been using my own bags at Litchfield Stop and Shop.
And
as long
at the Big Y as well. You can
As
use your
long as
own
I
bags there.
package my own groceries at the end of the conveyor belt, I can use my own bags.
we've been packing into paper, but the produce section, like if you buy 3 limes or whatever, it seems people don't want to touch the 3 lines that you've touched, that, you put the produce into a bag.
Sure. But IGA is not letting you use your reusable still?
I don't know. I don't do the marketing. Adam
I
does.
don't think so.
That's true, they are not. The sign in the door still says, do not bring your bags.
Yeah. It'll be 6 months before they take that down.
That's unfortunate.
It's a shame.
Well,
'cause that's-
but on a bigger scope than Kent, overall, because of the rubber gloves and there's just a lot more plastic back in use. I mean, this whole thing, it's for very good reasons, is why for health reasons, we need to deal with more plastic, but it is setting us back. And that's what's
When
happening.
does the governor's bag tax, the executive order that suspended the bag tax, when does that, it was June
was July.
20th, but it got extended.
Was it just a month?
I don't know
Yeah, I
what
thought
they
it was the end of
extended
July,
it.
but I don't know.
I mean, basically, when that happens, IGA is going to have to let you bring your own bags in.
Yeah, well, they're just waiting for a mandate. They're just not ahead of the curve. They're waiting for the curve to happen. It's typical IGA. Not like it's something new. Like the box that you're thinking of. They gotta wait till 8,000 other people do it before they move forward.
Yep. Or they need to hear it, like I said with the box, they need to hear it from different people
Right.
over the course of a month, and then it will be their own idea and it will happen.
It needs to sound like something that is acceptable to do and doable.
Yeah.
And I think
Let's
that is
move on. There's nothing more to be said about that.
okay. All right. So update on the cell tower. I should have looked and memorized these dates, but there is a public hearing set for July. Does anyone know those dates off the top of their head?
Something like the 24th or so, like later.
Yeah, I wanted to say 20th myself.
Yeah, so right now they're finishing up with all of the filing of papers. In the select board meeting last Monday, the selectmen went into executive session to discuss that part of the agenda. So it's kind of unclear what their legal strategy is going to be. I'm not sure if, their original statement that they were going to join the neighbors groups still holds or not. But we should find out more as those final papers are filed.
Will the public hearing be after our next meeting?
After.
Yeah, I think so, because it's in the 20s.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
maybe we should plan on, just focusing on what the papers say and what the public hearing is going to be like, because, I doubt it'll be in person. But they haven't really talked about whether or not they're making provisions for a Zoom meeting and what type of public they're really prepared to welcome to that meeting. We may have a role in pushing the information out to our community in terms of how they can attend that public meeting, because chances are that the Siting Council is not going to do a really great job of advertising that. And I would doubt that, that Homeland is going to, say boo about it. So it'll be up to the neighbors groups and maybe, to us to inform the townspeople that there is going to be a hearing.
Do we know now where that meeting is going to be held?
It's going to have to be virtual.
Oh, that's right.
You say that very confidently, but I'm not super confident on that. In the, just last week, Planning and Zoning decided they're going to have their July meeting in person. And when I asked Darlene, does that mean that they have to offer a Zoom link and the in-person option? She's like, I don't even know. Like we're venturing into such unknowns. I don't have any idea, truthfully. You're right that you can't predict how many people would show up in person, and it's probably over 50 or 100, whatever the
I mean, if the
before
first
rules
public
are.
meeting was any indication, they really should make provisions for having a virtual meeting, or they're going to find themselves in a situation where they really can't meet. They're going to have to postpone.
I would agree, but I just, being alert to how this all unfolds is going to be our job, to make sure that it doesn't turn into a situation that's too late to actually make some waves if it goes down the wrong path.
Mhm.
Doesn't the siting council also go to the actual site? Don't they visit the site?
I think they do, and I think that that timing happens around the same time as the public hearing.
Well, I
But
thought there was
that
the
is
same
not
day yet.
public.
I thought there was part of the process, part of the hearing.
That's not a public process though, because then you would have people picketing and
Right.
Yeah.
a sit-in and all that would happen. I mean, just look at what's going on right now. I can't even imagine the chaotic scene that would happen if they told us when that was happening.
But therefore, if they would come over to take a look at the place, then it would make sense that they come to town hall for.
I think
public
those are
hearing.
separate trips.
I think they did say that it was in Kent, that the actual hearing would be held in
Yeah,
Kent.
it was. That's
I'm
what
pretty sure they
said.
did specify that, but again, not understanding since town hall is physically still closed, but they're making provisions to have meetings in the big room. Seems like we're getting mixed messages from town hall, as also hashed out in that selectmen's meeting, so.
It might be used successfully as a delay tactic. So, I don't know that it makes sense to proactively reach out to the siting council now and alert them. But I do think that should they try to have a physical meeting in July, they will find that they've got more than 100 attendees on their hands. And I don't think they'll be able to accommodate that in town hall or even outside.
I would agree.
At that Board of Selectmen meeting, were you able to ask questions? Like,
No,
could you?
We
not
moved
about the
into
cell tower.
timeout. They physically moved us into a waiting room in timeout. It was the
Okay.
weirdest, and they did it to us twice for 2 different executive sessions. It was a very bizarre meeting that
But
lasted 4 hours.
during the open part, you couldn't ask a question about them looking themselves for a better site.
No, I mean, they definitely weren't going to say anything substantive like that, Yos, and I expect that they would have considered information like that to be privileged, because they are
Really?
legal representation at this point. I think that they're still likely developing some of that legal strategy, so they might not have been, able or ready to share anything like that, and the public wasn't really given an opportunity to ask logistical questions like when there would be a public hearing or anything. They just moved on in the agenda.
They were signing the lawyers up like that. They were making the agreement that to accept legal counsel in that. And so the legal counsel was there. We don't know, obviously they agreed to hire whatever firm it was, but that was pretty much the only knowledge we got.
Mhm.
This is kind of on the sidelines, but do we know whether the closed, or, when they shut the public out, do they do that legally? This strikes me, I mean, it seemed to me we should have heard what the Roberti settlement was. I'm a little suspicious of how some of these things are just being put in closed session.
I think that's probably beyond the scope of our meeting, and I have to tell you, I'm not quite comfortable going into a discussion about this in the forum of the Conservation Commission.
All right.
I do
Well,
know that there are some guidelines for when you can use it.
something to think about, though.
So, okay. So, anything more on cell tower?
No.
So, Western Connecticut Clean Air Action. I know you had a meeting on Monday because I got an email, your attendees are here, and I went, oh, I hope they're fine. So, zapped on for a second, made Mike Benjamin the host, and then zapped back off.
So what happened in the meeting?
You want me to speak about that?
Sure, Wendy.
Um,
It's-
Well, Carol was there as well, but we had about, I guess, 8 or 9 members from the different towns. The first part of the meeting was all about what Wagstrom at UConn is going to be doing for us. The money shuffle is almost completed. It was a nightmare of bureaucracy, but anyway, she said they're going, by next month, she hopes to give us a first preliminary evaluation of our setup. She said the data really won't be very meaningful for maybe 6 months, but because all this kind of study is so subject to weather changes and so on. But she said she thought within a year we'd know whether we had a problem or not. Is that what you got, Carol?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's to remind us that we're not looking at the data daily, but it's the bigger picture and the trends of the data. And that's what she's going to be helping us with the analysis on that.
But overall, all the machines all the sensors are doing a pretty good job. And I think it was also mentioned that we should thank our legislators for providing that $20,000, which will, be very helpful to UConn to carry out their studies. But I think that's about all that came out of it. There were a couple of spikes last week, but she did not seem to think that this proved much of anything. And there is the further complication that our air quality is cleaner than ever at the moment because of the quarantine that we've all been through. I mean, there's just been less activity. An awful lot of the pollutants come from cars. So that is somewhat complicating the measurements, but they'll know how to work around that. So
Did this show up already in the data?
no, not really. Nothing that would say, oh, there's a clear problem. No, nothing like that.
No, but did the
Little-
data show that the air was a lot cleaner or not?
Yes, it has showed that as compared with a year ago, the air is cleaner.
Right. Yeah, but we don't have data from a year ago.
Well, what's our
yeah,
baseline? Didn't we have
we
a
do.
baseline set?
How long is has it
Well,
been collected?
the first machine or the first sensor went in January, December of 2018, and was really, and by spring of 2019, we had most of the instruments here.
Okay.
And we also have the Cornwall up on top of the mountain, which is a more complex sensor. So all those things are showing, yes, the air is somewhat cleaner. There was a near warning down in Danbury last week of a smog alert, but that was an alert rather than a proven fact. I think in the end, it didn't turn out to amount to anything.
There was a car carrier on fire on the highway in Danbury that day, probably.
Oh, that would do it.
Yeah, it was last week that a car carrier caught on fire and all the cars and everything caught on fire.
Yeesh.
I mean, the other point to mention is Professor Wagstrom really feels the importance of including in her analysis a lot of comparison to the monitors that are owned and run by DEEP. And she's really working in collaboration with them because their data becomes even more important now.
Yeah.
So.
But I think the point to make here is that for all our efforts, we finally have got DEEP paying attention to us. And that was a big part of our goal. So we're pleased.
So I'm
And,
sorry.
we are going to be putting out, we haven't had an update to our contact list, to our extended contact list since October. So we're going to be putting out now another update, just to really let our citizen scientists know that, you know, in spite of the pandemic, the monitors are in place, the data is being collected, and so we're going to say hello to everybody within the next 2 weeks and just, you know, get everybody
Very
back. And
Very
Wendy
good.
is also working at what would be timely to say at this point with the press release. So we're going ahead.
Great. Great. So one question I had, and you may have said this, and I'm sorry if I didn't pick it up, but are we also looking and comparing against what they are getting at the actual plant? So the monitors over in Dover, right? I mean, I remember that, you know, we're somewhat suspicious of, you know, monitors run by the plant itself and the student-led aspect of that. So are we going to be looking at their data and seeing if what we're getting is consistent?
We have access to that, yes. My sense is that they're not particularly interested over there. They don't want any bad news, so I don't think they're going to take notice of it. But we can check that daily if or Christina can.
I mean, it might just be interesting to know that they're getting the same data.
Oh, right.
If they weren't, you know, I don't know, that it would just, that would just be a question in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one possibility is that the toxins rise so high from the stacks that they actually don't descend until they get past Dover.
Right.
Right.
Well, also informative though, because that becomes part of your basis for, you know, I mean, we've often wondered why the people of Dover were, you know, so intent on having this and really were very, you know, so much more convinced of the economic benefits to the town, you know, than the potential harm environmentally. And if the truth is that, you know, there isn't that much harm environmentally to the town of Dover, but that, you know, surrounding areas are disproportionately impacted, then, you know, that also becomes part of whatever, you know, your initiatives are in the future.
Well, there is language in the original documents written for Dover that suggests that that was part of their argument, that you don't have to worry about it locally. I mean, it's you can see it in the documents, they say so.
Mm-hmm.
But where we disagreed with them was where the wind went.
Right. But it's got to go somewhere, right?
Go somewhere.
It doesn't disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're quite pleased to have UConn involved in this. You know, it was immediately apparent that we couldn't really interpret this data. So happy days.
Good.
Isn't there a saying that the solution to pollution is dilution? Like you just spread it out over a larger area and the concentration becomes less. It doesn't look so bad.
That's fine unless every area is going on the same principle, and then you're just getting a more diverse kind of pollution. But there's still
Well,
plenty
that's
of it.
what's happening. I mean, we're all getting it.
Right.
Can you also bring me a shirt?
So that's my report, and Carol's, I guess.
Great, thank you. Okay, anything more, or can we move on to E, which should be quick?
Yep, I think we can.
As far as sustainable CT, I haven't heard anything from Jean. I think that they are focusing on other things. Thank you, Adam, just brought me a shirt. I did get cold, Melissa. They're focusing on other things in town hall. I did make a connection with the COGS Sustainable CT intern for this summer. I have to be honest with you. I think that I don't have right now the time to lead this on my own, and I know that that wasn't really my job. So I guess we just continue to wait, and then maybe you know, ask Jean, you know, just ask her for an update and whether or not she's still interested in pursuing this.
Connie, Sustainable Connecticut also gives major brownie points for this solar initiative. This is within the, under the umbrella of that program.
Yeah. Well, look, I've said it before, and I don't think that the town of Kent would have any difficulty meeting the requirements for certification for sustainable CT. I am quite confident that we are doing many practices, and I'm also, I think that there is something to the structure of a program that points you in certain directions that you might go to next. But there's the whole administrative, endeavor of pulling together all of the paperwork, and that does take, it does take manpower. It's going to take a number of hours, and if we don't have more people involved in this and kind of leading it, and if we don't have a champion, from from the town really leading this, I don't think that we're going to be able to do it.
Is there any
Well,
deadline? Is there any deadline that it should be
No,
involved?
it's rolling.
Okay.
Connie, it's my sense that if we do get the solar municipal assistance, that will take up so many points of the program that it will be an easy thing to do. And I think we'll get a lot of momentum from the town if that comes through, because,
Mhm.
those others are smaller enterprises.
We should use our budget surplus to employ a motivated youth to pull together the paperwork for us.
A
That's a
college
good
intern,
idea.
like someone who genuinely, like a Maddie.
Because it comes back to you in the form of these community match funds. So being just even enrolling in the program makes you eligible to participate in the community match fund, and then you go through these levels of bronze, silver, gold, and once you become certified, you're given priority for certain pools of grant funding. So
Well-
I mean, I did kind of say that flippantly, but I think that really it's just going to take the effort of a few people getting the paperwork together, making sure that we have the documentary proof. It's kind of like land trust accreditation, which I do a lot for many different organizations. It's a time question.
So what about that sustainable city intern? Can we hire that intern part-time? Pay, I mean, that person is already totally into it. Pay him or her to spend some time in Kent.
These are college students that are given a summer job working with the different COGs. And so this person has responsibilities related to the entire COG region. I assume that he's going to go back to school in the fall. I don't really know, but it's probably possible to have a little bit of this person's time for us to ask questions about the program and maybe to help us on individual matters here and there, but we couldn't get the intern to do it for us.
I'm going to make a
Isn't
suggestion.
it premature anyway? I mean, shouldn't we wait until this, the Green Bank thing starts to happen?
Yeah, I think that would be a
Well-
great time, and I think you could even get an unemployed retired person to do this, or two people, because there's a lot of enthusiasm for this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, come the fall, we'll know whether we made progress on this or not. If we did, then I think a lot of the other pieces will fall into place. So I suggest we put that off to talk about it in September, when we have some sense of what's going on.
I agree.
But don't you think we need to still send an email to Jean? She made a promise to us, and we need to ask her if she made any progress on the things she was working towards.
Oh, that's fair enough. Sure.
Sure.
And give her a deadline, say we'd like to know by such and such a date.
I think we could just, I have to email her about something else.
Well, I just think she holds some of the important pieces to this that we, the Conservation Commission, can't even begin to
Well, we
discuss.
right. I mean, we could just say that it came up in our meeting and that we're still interested and wanted to know if she had thought any more about convening some kind of a committee. And just to let her, just to kind of keep it in her mind.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, be good.
All right, so Trails, a hiker's guide. Is there anything?
No update. We did, thank you, Connie, fix the maps at Town Hall. And you've got a revised
Yep.
combined map.
Mhm.
And when and if we publish another book, we will certainly correct the maps then. But otherwise, I still have an inventory here, and needless to say, sales are slowing.
Liddy, I did have a question for John. He's probably forgotten. I wanted him to read over the text that was still with the map that has been changed to make sure that, based on what he knows, the text also reads correctly.
I'll get him to do that, Wendy. I will.
Okay,
Writing myself a note.
thank you.
So it's currently available where right now? If I were to put a post on Facebook to promote the actual book,
Well,
is
the
House of Book-
library and the House of Books are the only two I know about.
right, but are they actually selling them like via curbside, or how are they doing business right now, I guess is my actual question.
I think the House of Books, you have to place an order by phone and then they'll meet you or they'll send it to you or whatever. And Town Hall's closed, so.
No, the library, you said.
Oh, I'm sorry, the library. Library is opening next week. I'll check. I'll see how they're handling it.
Right, so I mean, if you can find that out for me and send me an email, I can put a Facebook post together with all these new people in our area semi-permanently for the time being.
I will-
people
I
might
will
have-
do that.
Melissa, I think that would be terrific. I
Yeah,
think there's a very, very good audience.
Very good. We can certainly do that.
I know
I-
that at
we
the
got-
Land Trust, we have had a stock that we occasionally send with a welcome letter to new families. So, if we're able to get a list of some new families, that would be something that we'd be interested in doing again.
Connie, how many does the Kent Land Trust have now? Do you know?
I have to look. I want to say it's not that many. I mean, it may be 10 or so. And I also think, Liddy, that I think they may be the edition prior to.
They are.
I think you're right.
The one I
think
have
you're
on
right.
my desk is the edition prior.
But
So,
what we're really talking about is we're not just talking about new families. We're talking about a lot of part-time and weekender people who are really living here full-time now.
both.
And
Both. I
out
mean-
on the trails, and they would love to have this book, and they should know about it. So, Melissa, I think it's a terrific idea.
I don't know if you saw Bain's posts in the last week. They've sold like 6 houses that were only listed for less than 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, Lee Soul's daughter sold her house right there at the junction of 341 and South Kent Road. Like all these houses that I would think, oh, they're going to be hard to sell. Are
Oh, no,
selling
that-
6 or less days. So, but we also, the Board of Ed just got notice that, and it was in the newspaper this week,
Yeah.
that 13 new students of New Yorkers or people who used to live here part-time and now are going to shelter in place here are going to join or register for our school in the fall. So that's actually pretty substantial.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
same is true
Very.
for like Washington Montessori and, so like the private lower grade schools are also, seeing more interest. So so anyway, I mean, which all goes back to say, Liddy, that, I may be able to take some off your hands.
Okay.
Let's see.
Very good. And maybe we need to print some more. Who knows?
We'll ask John about that text before you do.
I certainly will. I'll do that right away, Wendy. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
So that's it on the trail books.
Okay, so an update on encouraging dispersed use of Kent's hiking trails. I believe since our last meeting, I've had 2 meetings with Leslie Ferris and David Becker, who is the person who was charged with our emergency response team leadership in town, just kind of checking in and seeing what is happening with respect to overcrowding, particularly at Bulls Bridge and by Kent Falls, even though it remains closed. The HVA through the Greenprint was awarded a small grant by the Northwest Connecticut Community Foundation to spend some time helping to coordinate the public messaging around trails so that people could find out where the where the less traveled trails are. And across the state, this is part of a larger effort. There's some coordination between DEEP and a group. I actually don't know the origins of it, but it's the Connecticut Outdoor Recreation Association, something like ACORA, and they're coordinating also an effort to drive people away from the more heavily used trails and to some of the less traveled places. So I would say in Kent that, maybe it's become a little better. It's hard to know if that's, through the efforts of trying to tell people where the trails are, or if we've just gotten better at managing traffic at Bulls Bridge and Kent Falls, or if, the initial, embrace of hiking as one way to deal with COVID has, maybe that got boring for people that weren't hiker types, or I don't know, it could be a combination of all of those things. I'm not really sure what we as the Conservation Commission need to do about it, or where our role is. There is a video that we made for the Northwest Connecticut Community Foundation that will probably, I think it would be helpful for the Conservation Commission to share at some point. So, it's just is very light, but it's about, where you're gonna go if you make plans to come up in the parking lot is full.
Are Connie, you going to put that on the land trust as well?
Yes, absolutely.
So can you send that link to us before our next meeting, just so we can see it?
Yeah, I can even
Okay.
show it
So
to you.
should I leave this, should I leave the topic on the agenda at all?
No, let's just do it. I don't think you need to discuss it.
As I put it.
No, I'm saying, should the whole topic remain on the agenda, or next month you want to visit the topic again?
I don't really know, because it's hard to know how much of a problem this is gonna.
All right, fine, we'll leave it. Okay.
I mean, the whole point is to, keep our outdoor recreation places open, keep them safe, and in general to raise awareness of where the trails are, which is something that we've been doing for a long, long time through the Trails book. So, I can tell you one of the other things that we'll probably be doing, as a group of land trusts, in addition to sharing signs and, some like sharing anecdotes about what's worked. I don't know if you know this, in Washington, Steep Rock and the town roads department have been working in coordination. In fact, town employees have been stationed at Steep Rock parking lots to help them manage parking because of, and I don't know that we need that here. There are just different strategies that are working in different places. So
Okay.
we'll be doing that. And there's an app called All Trails that you may have seen or know about, and people know about All Trails. So a lot of hikers use All Trails, but it kind of relies on this crowdsourcing to grow. And so there's a way to list one's own trails on All Trails if, no hikers from the community have been, fortunate enough to stumble upon your trail and record it yet. And so that's another thing that we anticipate leading the land trusts in doing, is making sure that their trails are on All Trails and findable.
Good.
And the regional trails, that's inventoried. Can you provide a link to that trail inventory via the town website or maybe the town newsletter?
I didn't really hear your whole thing, Yost. Can you repeat your question?
The trail inventory you did for a larger area with HVA, can that be made available also to other people through like through the town website or the town newsletter? So people have a larger area with trails that they can choose from.
The green print
Yeah.
portal, you mean?
I think that Jean
Yeah,
might have done that already, and she can do it again. But I mean, we have so I've been asking Leslie Ferris and Jean to share 3 links. One is to the town website where they can get maps, our maps, John's maps, and download those. The second link being the link that is posted on the Northwest Hills Council of Government website, which is all of the trails, and that I think that's what you were referring to, Yost.
Okay.
Interactive map of all of the trails in the COG region. And then the
Right.
third link that I think is very helpful is CFPA's Blue Blaze Trail System,
Right.
which has a similar interactive map. We've shared those, with the Kentland Trust, and I've asked Jean to share them. I have them in my bio for the Kentland Trust's Instagram page at the moment, so that anyone can pick those up. But yeah, sharing those links again and again is what we're going to need to do. And we even thought about maybe, a print material that, or signs, with QR codes, so that if people get to parking lots and it's full, they can get to those links immediately and find a place nearby that might not be all booked up.
Okay.
So,
Hungry.
what?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry? Okay. I think that we're done. I don't think that there's any new business. I haven't been to town hall, so I don't know if there's correspondence. So if there's nothing else,
There's no correspondence. There's only a newsletter or something in there. I'll look tomorrow when I go.
okay.
But the mailboxes had one thing in it for.
Oh, I do have one really great item of new business to share. But Liddy, did you have something?
No, I thought we were done.
Oh, okay. Okay, so before we close, something somewhat positive is that Park and Rec has determined to hold its concert series, and they're going to do it on the Kentland Trust field. So they're
Oh, my.
they're going to be drive-in. You have to stay in your car. So I'm thinking that like anyone with a convertible is gonna like really have the best time, but maybe like a pickup truck and sit in the bed of the pickup truck or something like that. And they're gonna start this series beginning July 2nd for 6 weeks in a row. And so, in a week where they've had to admit that they're not going to do any camps and that Emery Park is closed, this is a little spark of good news that should be coming out to the public very quickly, very soon.
Oh, good. Thank you, Karen.
I hope that they will change the you can't get out of your cars completely to you can put your chair next to your car. Because, my car, obviously, it would be a pretty bummer concert to watch from my car.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, you can park 10 feet
I
apart.
think it can still be fun. Look, I think that there's really no harm in beginning very conservatively, and it solves all of my questions about whether there are going to be people there for garbage pickup or anything like that, or you're not going to be able to get delivery or anything. All of these things that could be fun, but also could be a nightmare, and so. So this is how they're going to do it. We'll try it, and then we'll see how it goes, for subsequent concerts.
Nice.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Motion to adjourn.
I think that we adjourn. Everyone can go get their dinner. Thank you, and we will see you in July.
Very good,
Sounds
Karen.
good. Take
Okay.
care,
Thank you.
everybody.
8:21 is our adjournment.
Stay safe, everybody. Stay healthy. And have a lot of joy every day.
Absolutely.
Have a nice evening.
Take
Right.
care.
Bye.